So my dad went on a podcast and told the world about my virginity. I'm still pretty upset with him about it. He had no right to put my business out there. And honestly, it's our last day in Mexico, and I can't wait to get away from everything and get back to school.
Yo, what if everything you thought you knew about this perfect celebrity family was just a carefully staged illusion? Because behind the cameras, behind the smiles, and behind the fame of T.I., there's a story that doesn't sit right, and now it's starting to unravel. For years, Deyjah Harris stayed quiet. No scandals, no outbursts, just the good daughter everyone praised. But silence doesn't mean peace, and insiders are now claiming that silence was hiding something much deeper. Allegedly, Deyjah has opened up about a life that felt more like control than care, where every move was watched, every choice questioned, and every boundary blurred under pressure. And while she was being monitored, restricted, and scrutinized, King Harris was out here moving different. Fights, arrests, guns, chaos, and somehow always defended. That contrast, that imbalance, that's where this story gets disturbing. Because people aren't just asking questions anymore, they're connecting dots. Why was one child tightly controlled while the other spiraled freely? Why did discipline look like surveillance for her, but excuses for him? And the moment that shocked the internet, it didn't just go viral, it changed everything. Now, whispers are turning into conversations, and conversations are turning into a narrative no one in that family can ignore. This isn't just drama. This feels like something much darker and way more personal. And if even half of these claims are true, then what really happened inside that house? What happens when the perfect daughter finally stops protecting the image and starts protecting herself? Because for years, Deyjah Harris was the quiet one, the composed one, the one who didn't embarrass the family name. While the spotlight constantly shifted toward chaos, controversy, and headlines, she stayed in the background. But silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. Behind closed doors, according to ongoing discussions and alleged accounts circulating online, Deyjah wasn't living the same life people assumed. What looked like structure from the outside allegedly felt like control from the inside. A kind of control that wasn't loud but constant, subtle but suffocating. Every move monitored, every decision questioned, every boundary pushed. And at the center of it all, her father, T.I. Publicly, he presented himself as a protective parent, a father who was deeply involved, a man who believed in discipline, guidance, and structure. But critics, and now voices close to the situation, are starting to question whether that protection crossed into something else entirely. Because while Deyjah was being watched, someone else wasn't. King Harris, same household, same parents, completely different reality.
You know, put it out how you feeling and what you think about him opening his mouth about whatever goes on between you two.
Maybe not right now, because I'm trying to figure out what it is.
By the time King was making headlines, it wasn't for achievements, it was for behavior that kept escalating. Public altercations, viral confrontations, legal trouble, moments that would normally trigger strict consequences in most households. But here's where the story takes a turn people can't ignore. Instead of harsh accountability, what people saw again and again was defense, excuses, even humor. He's young. He'll learn. Boys will be boys. And that's where the contrast becomes impossible to overlook. Because while one child was allowed to test limits, the other allegedly wasn't even allowed to have them. The moment that truly shifted public perception came when T.I. openly spoke about accompanying his daughter to medical visits to monitor her personal life. What he described as parenting, the internet interpreted very differently. The backlash was immediate, intense, unforgiving, but lost in that noise was one critical voice. Deyjah's. She later expressed feeling shocked, embarrassed, hurt, and for many, that was the first real glimpse behind the curtain. The first time people realized that what was being presented as care might have felt like something else entirely to the person living it. And from there, everything started to connect. The silence, the distance, the emotional shift.
Since the news broke, my dad and I haven't spoken. I just feel like he should be reaching out to me about all of this.
I don't.
Online discussions began raising deeper questions, not just about parenting styles, but about boundaries, about emotional impact, about what happens when control is normalized inside a family that millions are watching from the outside. Some even allege that Deyjah felt uncomfortable within that dynamic, that certain lines, while never clearly defined in public, felt blurred in private. These claims remain unconfirmed, but the conversation around them continues to grow. And while all of this was unfolding quietly on one side, King's story was getting louder. More confrontations, more incidents, more moments that seemed to push limits further each time. Yet somehow, the reactions remain softer. That's the pattern people can't ignore. One child internalizing everything, the other externalizing everything. One becoming quieter, the other becoming louder. And both outcomes pointing back to the same place. The same house, the same system, the same father. Now, as more attention returns to this family, the question isn't just about what happened publicly. It's about what didn't. What went unseen, what went unspoken, and what is only now starting to surface. The deeper you look into this story, the harder it becomes to separate perception from reality. Because what the public saw was a family brand, carefully built, highly visible, and constantly performing. But what people are now questioning is what that visibility may have been hiding. Inside that same household, two completely different narratives were unfolding at the same time. On one side, Deyjah Harris, growing quieter, more reserved, more distant with every passing year. Not explosive, not rebellious, just withdrawn. And according to ongoing discussions, that silence wasn't, it was survival. On the other side, King Harris, getting louder, more confrontational, more unpredictable. His behavior wasn't hidden. It was public, documented, repeated, and yet the response around him never seemed to match the intensity of his actions. That imbalance, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it started raising alarms. Because in most families, strict control comes with strict consequences. But here, people are asking, why did it feel like control was reserved for one child while leniency followed the other? And this is where the story starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a pattern. Observers began revisiting old footage, old interviews, old clips that, at the time, seemed harmless. But now, under a different lens, they feel different. Moments where T.I. spoke about parenting with a level of authority that blurred into surveillance. Comments that were once brushed off as strict father energy, now being dissected as something more intense, more invasive. And in contrast, moments involving King that were laughed off, deflected, even normalized. That's when the internet did what it always does. It connected timelines. It noticed how early the differences started, how consistently they played out, how publicly they were displayed without ever being fully addressed. And then came the breaking point, the public confrontation. When King went live, arguing with his parents in front of thousands, it wasn't just another viral moment. It was chaos spilling out in real time. Accusations, raised voices, a son challenging the very narrative his family had built. But what stood out wasn't just what King said. It was what wasn't said by anyone else. No real correction, no clear boundary, no visible shift. Just more noise. And somewhere in that noise, Deyjah remained quiet. But people started noticing something else. Distance. Not just physical, but emotional. The kind of distance that doesn't happen overnight. The kind that builds slowly over time when something doesn't feel right, but can't fully be said out loud. Some online discussions even suggest that Deyjah's relationship with her father became increasingly strained after certain public revelations. That trust may have been impacted. That comfort may have been replaced with caution. Again, none of this is confirmed. But the pattern, that's what people keep coming back to. Because when one child feels the need to retreat and another feels free to escalate, it forces a question that's hard to ignore. What kind of environment creates both outcomes at the same time? And more importantly, why does it seem like no one inside that environment is willing to fully acknowledge it? Even now, the family continues to present a united front. Publicly supportive, publicly protective, closing ranks whenever criticism surfaces. But the internet doesn't forget, and it definitely doesn't stop asking questions. Because this isn't just about parenting styles anymore. It's about impact. Long-term, emotional, psychological. The kind of impact that doesn't always explode outward. Sometimes it disappears inward. And if that's the case here, then the silence surrounding Deyjah Harris might not be peace at all. It might be something else entirely. Something heavier, something unresolved, something that's still waiting to be fully understood. And this is where the story stops being just a conversation and starts feeling like a warning. Because patterns don't lie. And when the same pattern repeats itself, control on one side, chaos on the other, it forces a deeper question that no one in that family has fully answered. What exactly was happening inside that house? On the surface, everything still looks intact. The legacy, the fame, the carefully maintained image built by T.I. over decades. A man who turned controversy into success, mistakes into reinvention. A public figure who knows exactly how to manage perception. But perception doesn't erase impact. And now, more than ever, people are starting to look past the image and focus on the outcomes. Because those outcomes are impossible to ignore. King Harris continues to move in a way that raises concern. Each incident building on the last. Each headline louder than the one before. A trajectory that even his own father has admitted worries him. And yet, nothing seems to truly stop it. No hard reset, no visible accountability, no shift strong enough to break the cycle. At the same time, Deyjah Harris remains the opposite. No outbursts, no chaos, no public rebellion. Just distance. And that contrast, it's no longer being ignored. Because people are starting to realize something uncomfortable. Both outcomes can come from the same place. One child acts out, the other shuts down. One demands attention, the other avoids it. And both, in different ways, can be responses to the same environment. That's what makes this story heavier than celebrity drama. It's not just about what was done. It's about what it did. To them. To their dynamic. To the way they now exist, publicly and privately. Some voices online are now calling this a case study in imbalance. A household where authority may have been uneven. Where expectations weren't shared equally. Where one child carried pressure while the other carried freedom. And freedom without structure? It can spiral. Control without space. It can suffocate. But the most unsettling part? Neither path leads to peace. Because even now, as the conversations grow louder, the responses remain the same. Deflection, defense, silence. The family closes ranks. The narrative stays polished. And the deeper questions remain unanswered. What did Deyjah really experience? What does King actually need? And what role did their father truly play in shaping both outcomes? No official statements have clarified it. No direct answers have settled it. Just fragments, moments, reactions, and a growing sense that something isn't adding up. Because if everything was truly balanced, why does it feel so fractured? Why does one story sound like control and the other like neglect? And why, after all this time, does it seem like the only thing that hasn't changed is the pattern itself? Now the spotlight is shifting again, not toward the headlines, but toward the history behind them. And as more people start paying attention, one thing becomes clear. This isn't over. Not for Deyjah Harris, not for King Harris, and definitely not for T.I. Because when a story is built on silence for too long, it doesn't stay buried, it builds. And eventually, it comes back louder than ever. And now the question isn't what happened, it's how long this can keep going before something finally breaks. Because at this point, the pattern is too loud to ignore and too consistent to dismiss. Every incident, every reaction, every silence, it all keeps pointing back to the same uncomfortable reality. A family trying to protect its image while something deeper continues to unravel behind the scenes. Deyjah Harris may not be screaming for attention, but her silence is speaking volumes. And the more people revisit what she said, how she's reacted, and how distant things have become, the harder it is to pretend everything is normal. At the same time, King Harris is still moving like nothing has consequences. Still escalating. Still turning every situation into another headline. And somehow, the cycle keeps repeating. So people are asking the question no one in that family seems ready to answer. Is this really just how they are? Or is this the result of something that was never handled the right way? Because you can only defend chaos for so long before it turns into damage. And you can only stay silent for so long before that silence turns into distance that can't be repaired. And right in the middle of all of it stands T.I., a father, a public figure, and now, the center of a narrative that refuses to go away. This isn't just gossip anymore. This feels like a countdown. So the real question is, when the next moment hits, and it will it finally force the truth out, or will it be covered up like everything else? Because this time, people are watching closer than ever.